Jesus, he has some really hard sayings in Matthew chapter 5, and we have been looking at some of them, like saying, "You fool, with this cause you to enter hell." What about adultery in the heart, and so on. And next, and connected to adultery of the heart, which we did in the last video, he continues to say that if your eye causes you to sin, you should rip it off, because it is better for you to enter the eternal life with just one eye than just going to Gehenna and suffer eternal punishment. And yeah, he has a point, but what is Jesus trying to communicate here? So this has been puzzling. Maybe also if you have been reading the older versions of the Bible, it has been puzzling because the wording just is a little bit difficult. For instance, in the King James Version, it has, "If your right eye offend thee." Well, how can my right eye offend me? I'm not offended by from my eye. What is this about? But in 1611, when this was written and translated, the word offend would mean cause to stumble. But still, cause to stumble. How can I stumble because of my right eyes? I stumble because something is in the way, blocking me, then I kind of fall upon it. This is how I stumble. So, and also in the English Revised Version from 1881, it talks about the right eye causing you to stumble. And this is pretty outdated. But a better translation is from the NIV, the New International Version, which says that don't let your eye lead you into sin. But how can your eye lead you into sin? Well, simply by staring at something tempting too long, so that you will be tempted and you will do it, and then you will have committed adultery, or no less sin, because your eye caused you to stare at something, and this temptation just grew inside of you, and now you sin. So think of, for example, King David from the Old Testament. So he was out there and he was standing on the palace, in the roof of the palace, and he was looking down, and he saw he saw the woman just bathing there, be naked, and he should have just taken his eyes away from it. He didn't, but his eyes led him into sin, so he stumbled. Okay, Jesus then would say that it's better for you to pluck out this eye than to be led into sin. Then Matthew continues and go on with a similar saying about the right hand. Yes, the right hand. This idea just stuck with Jesus' followers, and it is repeated also in Matthew 18, verse 8 to 9. So should this worry me? If I have been looking at someone with lust, should I just go and rip off my eye? I don't know about you, but at least I have been doing this in my life, not just once, but twice or 3 times or even more, looking at someone. And as I mentioned in the last video, yes, in social media, when you stay and you look at someone with thoughts or all these things, we have done this so much. So we should all just be without hands and without eyes, right? Right? But friend, you don't need to worry. People in Jesus' time, those that understood this, that lived and that listened to this, his disciples, the 12, they didn't pluck out their eyes, they didn't cut off their hands and so on. So Jesus, he's using this kind of the vivid, vivid language, using pictures and images so that people would really understand. Now, has there been people doing this in church history? Yeah, it has. But this isn't something that we would advise. It's quite controversial, but yeah, people have been doing it. I will soon tell you a story about one guy that did something similar to this. But Jesus isn't telling you that you should go out and you should pluck out your eye. This is kind of the vivid language that he uses so that you would really understand. Now, people in his time, they didn't do it, and people, they didn't understand Jesus in this sense. So in the end, Jesus used strong language to make a point. The people understood that it was not to meant literally. They knew the difference between a word that described the real thing and that words that symbolize deeper meanings. So it's kind of, we have different kind of raining cats and dogs. Well, it's not raining cats and dogs, but it's just massive rain and so on. So I will go on now and just tell you about this because it's quite an intriguing story actually, from a origin of Alexandria. He was living in the 3rd century AD, and he was a great guy in many aspects and so on. But what can I say? Maybe some parts of the Bible he interpreted it quite too literary and kind of to that extreme. So, for example, he was very influenced by Jesus' talks about purity and sexual purity and so on. So he took this to extreme level. I will just come right to it. He castrated himself. I would say it one more time. He castrated himself. He read these verses and he felt in his life that, I am too tempted by women and I want to live pure. So he castrated himself. Now, you would be bold if you would take a knife and you would do this on yourself. At least you have to give him that. But then he also writes in one of his later writings, he says that you shall be cautious to act out immediately when you're acting in your in the zealousness of your youth or something like this. Well, origin story, it's highly controversial. It has raised a lot of questions about the appropriate interpretation and application of biblical teaching. And rightly so, right? Some admired his kind of commitment to purity, and others criticized his kind of extreme approach as just misinterpretation of Jesus' words. Well, what can we say now? How can we make something practical about this in our lives today? So, in our lives, we are dominated by, for example, by smartphones, and it's hard to imagine a life without these phones, actually. So let's dive into a scenario. You are engaging on your phone and you are in a friendly debate on social media, but then as this debate moves on, it kind of becomes a hot topic and it heats up, and you notice, my friend, a shift in your own voice, and you notice a shift in your own thinking and your emotions. And you start to feel a bit anger and so on, and this tool, which has helped you with connectivity, now has become a source of negative emotions in your life. Now this is where Jesus' teaching about plucking out your own eye can become something practical. And in this context, the eye can be your smartphone, which causes you to sin, or this app or this group, and it brings you into unhealthy discussions. So why not just take a digital detox and break free from a week or 2 weeks from these negative patterns, and just find different ways. And Jesus, he is serious about this. It's not that he means that you shall physically rip out your eyes, but he's using this vivid picture because he is serious about staring and being engaged with things so long that they will eventually cause you to sin. So, friend, just please write here in the comments below, when have you experienced this? What do you feel that the Lord is just urging you to kind of, what is your eye in this sense that has been leading you to sin the lastly, that you might need to have a detox from it? Keep it here in the comments, and also make sure you look at Udemy for our very interesting courses. I will start one now with biblical words, so just dig very deep into some biblical words and concepts.